Cognitive load, attention, and why the mind gets stuck. There's a useful way to think about the human mind that doesn't involve feelings, spirituality, or motivation. It involves systems. Every cognitive system has limits: bandwidth limits, processing limits, and energy limits. The human brain is no exception. Most people assume mental exhaustion comes from doing too much. In reality, it usually comes from processing the same thing repeatedly. Not new information, the same information. The same thought, the same concern, the same hypothetical future, the same replayed interaction. This isn't a character flaw, it's how feedback loops work. In systems theory, a loop becomes unstable when output feeds back into input without regulation. The human brain is especially good at this because it evolved to detect threats, not to turn them off automatically. So when a thought appears that feels unresolved, uncertain, or potentially costly, the system keeps rerunning it. Not because it's useful, because the loop hasn't closed. Now here's the key point most people miss. The brain does not distinguish between useful repetition and useless repetition. It only distinguishes between resolved and unresolved, so it keeps allocating resources. That's why people say things like, "I can't stop thinking about it." They're not failing at control, they're observing a system doing exactly what it was designed to do. The problem isn't thinking, the problem is unfiltered thinking. Every system that processes information efficiently uses filters. Email systems filter spam. Air traffic control systems filter noise. Scientific instruments filter signal. The human brain also has a filter, but most people never engage it deliberately. They assume every thought deserves processing. It doesn't. A thought is not evidence, it's not a command, it's not an obligation, it's a data packet. Some packets are worth processing, some are corrupt, some are duplicates, some arrive late and are no longer relevant. If you process all of them equally, the system slows down. This is why intelligent people are often more prone to mental overload. They have high processing capacity, but no priority queue. So let's talk about prioritization. There are 4 properties of any thought that matter from a system's perspective. First, utility. Does something processing this thought change an outcome you can influence? Second, accuracy. Is the thought based on verified information or assumption stacking? Third, ownership. Is this thought generated by your direct experience or inherited from external narratives? And fourth is timing. Is this thought actionable now, or is it speculative future simulation? Most mental loops fail at least 2 of these tests, but without an explicit failure, the brain doesn't reject them. It keeps running them because they feel urgent. Urgency is not a reliable signal, it's just intensity. Now here's where things get interesting. Neuroscience shows that attention is metabolically expensive. The brain consumes a disproportionate amount of energy relative to its size, which means wasted attention is not neutral, it has a cost. When attention is consumed by low-value loops, people experience fatigue, irritability, reduced decision quality, emotional reactivity, not because they're weak, because resources are being misallocated. What helps isn't positive thinking, what helps is better allocation. High-functioning systems don't eliminate noise, they deprioritize it. They let it exist without letting it dominate processing time. This is why experts in high-risk fields, pilots, surgeons, engineers, are trained not to react to every signal. They are trained to classify signals. They ask, is this signal meaningful? Is it actionable? Is it time sensitive? If not, it waits. The same principle applies internally. When a thought arises, the most efficient response isn't engagement, it's classification. That's a single step. Classification reduces load because the brain no longer treats the thought as unresolved. It has been handled, not solved, handled. This is why understanding alone can be calming, not because calm is the goal, but because ambiguity has to be reduced. Another overlooked factor is meaning generation. The human brain is a meaning-making machine. When it encounters an event without explanation, it fills the gap automatically, often inaccurately, often pessimistically. Not because it's broken, but because uncertainty historically carried survival risk. But in modern life, many events don't have meaning. They're random, they're neutral, they're incomplete information. If you allow the brain to fabricate meaning unchecked, it will generate stories that increase load without increasing accuracy. From a scientific perspective, the most rational stance toward incomplete data is suspension of interpretation. I don't know yet is not avoidance, it's correct. Holding uncertainty without filling it prematurely conserves resources. This is one reason people who are comfortable with uncertainty appear calm. Not because they don't care, but because they don't simulate unnecessary outcomes. Which brings us to time. A large percentage of mental strain comes from temporal misallocation. People process future possibilities as if they are present realities. The brain reacts the same way. Heart rate, muscle tension, hormonal response. But the event isn't happening. It's a simulation. From a system standpoint, this is inefficient. Simulation has value when it leads to preparation. It has cost when it loops without resolution. So an efficient cognitive system limits simulation duration. It asks, is this preparing me or just consuming cycles? Again, not emotional judgment, resource management, final intensity. Many people assume intensity equals seriousness. It doesn't. Intensity is often amplification. A system stuck at maximum intensity burns out faster and performs worse. Adaptive systems modulate intensity based on context. They don't eliminate engagement, they scale it, which is why experienced people often appear less reactive, not because they're detached, because they've learned that constant maximum output degrades performance. So if you step back and look at all of those things together, a simple pattern emerges. Mental strain is rarely about the content of thoughts, it's about how the system handles them. Improve filtering, improve classification, reduce unnecessary simulation, preserve uncertainty when data is incomplete, allocate attention deliberately. The side effect of doing this isn't enlightenment, it's efficiency. And efficiency often feels like relief, not because you aimed for it, but because the system is no longer overloaded. Nothing mystical, nothing hypnotic, just a system finally operating within its designed limits.